giving back to the society. My question is this.
That's amazing, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you. Probably we can catch up after the session. But my question is this, I think it's relevant to the others in the room as well. What you do and what we are trying to do as well is something which has been going on in a certain way in India as well as the US for many, many years. So how do you convince the people who are the stakeholders that you can do it in a better way and this is what needs to be done?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, some of it is differentiating obviously what you do and showing how what you're doing, although built on lots of years of experience and other people's accomplishments. I think there's certainly an argument that what we're doing is new and there's new ideas there. But I think, what I've learned in talking to donors and advisors and just people we want, and potential team members, people we wanted to bring, into the world of the Future Project and convince them to join us in some way, is that, ultimately, I just found it all comes down to passion. When there is an alignment, of passion and purpose, when the person you're talking to, has had an experience. So, the dream directors, I talk about them as, they're sort of part social entrepreneur, part community organizer, but they're also just like the best coach or teacher you ever had. So everyone can look back in their lives and identify that dream director, or hopefully many dream directors that you've had that believed in you, that pushed you. Anyway, when I'm talking to somebody, I found that it's all about just connecting what we're doing to what they're really passionate about and what they want to see in the world, and finding that sort of overlapping, that Venn diagram and enrolling them that way. I think the other thing is I found that people, just like more than anything, will bet on our team. So when people meet the people who, we've been fortunate enough to bring into our organization, I think they believe that they're betting on a group of people who are going to be able to execute. We're talking about executing, not just planning, but, people who are able to execute against what sound like sometimes really big and lofty ideas. So I think that's the other thing that we sell a lot is it's the idea, but it's also the team, and it's that we look for people who are going to hear this and they're going to sit up and say, oh, this is what I've been waiting for my whole life. Of course.
So Kanya, a couple of first reactions and one simple question. First reaction. I'm a big believer that one of the problems with the not-for-profits word is the word not-for-profits.
Yeah.
And what you're trying to do here, at least based on what I just heard, is try to bring, all the motives of profit into a not-for-profits world and then convert that into doing good. And that means you'll attract the right talent, you'll do a bunch of things. Clearly the message here has to be scale, because, teaching 5 people is great.
Right.
Teaching people to teach people is wonderful. Teaching people who teach people who teach people is where you get leverage. So the question is how you're going to get scale. But the bigger question I have is, how do you know you're creating an impact? Because businesses measure themselves versus goals they've set that are very measurable. What would those be for your venture?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I would love to talk to you about those scale questions, by the way. They're the biggest thing on my mind. So we, I think there's a 2-part answer to the question of how we measure success. Because, if we're fundamentally questioning the purpose of school, we're making an assertion that a lot of the things that really matter for young people are the things we don't know how to measure or that we aren't measuring. So, the question is, how do you measure hope? How do you measure belief in yourself and in the future? How do you measure, grit and perseverance and things like that? So there's sort of one thing to just note, which is that we, as part of our work, we've been bringing together extraordinary researchers and academics from all across the country who've been studying, growth mindset or purpose or hope. There's literally a person who's devoted his life to studying hope or inspiration. There's people studying lots of very specific things in academia. So finding these people and asking them to help us figure out better ways of measuring the things that we all believe matter, but we don't know how to measure right now. So that's the actual answer. That I don't really necessarily believe that there are that many ways of measuring the things that really should matter in schools and for young people. we're working on that. Separately though, we have to, both because we have to, get people to buy into what we're doing and because we need to even figure out whether or not what we're doing is having any effect. We measure a whole host of things and sort of conceptualize it in this 3-part framework that we talk about as will, skill, and thrill, which is corny but memorable. So will refers to all, is all insights, all the intrinsic factors. So, we survey our students around their, belief in themselves, intrinsic motivation, things like that, but we also look at their engagement in school. Are they coming to school more? So we see huge increases in attendance among our students, decreases in truancy, decreases in our kids getting into fights and things because they're actually engaged in what they're doing in school and in the classroom more. So that's will. Skill is, the 21st century skills that, I think anyone who works in business is realizing are more and more important every day. So, we've been working with a lot of people who know how to do this better than we do to assess our students' growth in leadership, in teamwork, in communication, in collaboration, and things like that. And then thrill refers to the culture of the entire school. So we see attendance for an entire school going up, even if there's a smaller group of students that are getting the highest dosage of the work with the Future Project, because the Dream directors are working with the principal and the administrators to shift sort of on the policy level how the school actually works and the experience of school. So we see attendance go up and truancy go down, all that on the school level. We also see people literally saying that the culture of their school is better and that they have more adults in the building now who care about them and who want to see them succeed and who they can go to when they have problems, things like that. So that's how we're looking at things now, and we've got we collect all the data, so we also know our students' grades go up when they really care about the things that they're learning and they can connect it to real world applications. We don't lead with that though, because that's not why we're doing this, so that students' grades go up in a system that we don't believe is necessarily asking them to learn the things that they most need to be learning right now. So long answer to a simple question, but that's how we think about it.
Kanya, firstly, I think what you are doing is terrific. I really admire you. My question is actually slightly more practical at this point. For any startup, raising funding is very difficult. For your kind of idea where it's more up there, it's kind of not a tangible thing. This whole, and you managed to get good seeding funding and things like that. How much was it serendipity? How much was it planning? What advice would you give to somebody who has a great idea but needs funding? How did you go about it, your experience?
Yeah, it's probably both serendipity and really hard work. Probably, but when we started, I think the most important thing, or when we started, the best advice we got was you have to go into your network, and even if your network barely exists, you have to find people So I went to Yale. I didn't know any rich people coming out of Yale, but I went and I just found everybody who I thought might be interested in what we're doing that happened to go to Yale, for example, and sent them all cold emails and got one response, but that one response turned into a meeting, and that turned so I think there's one thing is go into your network. Two is the cold emailing and cold calling. I actually so there's this gathering of social entrepreneurs from this organization that we're funded by. So every year they bring us together, and I learned how rare it is. They were shocked, the rest of the entrepreneurs in the room, that we just send cold emails to people, asking them to get involved, not asking them for money, ask them to get involved, ask them for advice, ask them to meet with us. So I found that if you just do some research and figure out who's gonna hear your idea and light up as a result, and you just reach out to them and you are dogged about it and you find 7 different ways of trying to reach them, sometimes magical things can happen. Everyone we ever met, we asked for who else we should talk to. So there was, once you get in front of one person, you then ask them, who are the 3 people I should go meet, and then you go meet with those people. But yeah, I think when it comes to tangibly how you actually sell someone in a meeting, I think when we started this, I imagine it's what you see on TV, that we do a lot of pitches with and PowerPoints and stuff, and we didn't really do any of that. What ended up being really effective was just one-on-one conversations that were real and deep, and that got whoever we were talking to really excited. So yeah, I think the audacity of all of it, just figuring out who you want to get to and just doing whatever it takes to get there. maybe doesn't sound like that much of a strategy, but it's literally what we did for the first year until we had some, until we built a network. And then now we've got, people on our board and, other folks who go out and help us fundraise in a big way.
Hi Kanya, first of all congratulations. Social entrepreneurship is a very, very sweet word to hear. I mean, it's social and it's entrepreneurship, both great words. Secondly, you also talked about Ashoka being the inspiration. So I'm a very proud and passionate person from Patna where Ashoka was from. And Bill Drayton is one of my heroes, besides many others like Tiger and many other speakers here. But my question to you is, I really love the way you said network. I spend a lot of time in thinking about writing about networks because I understand your network is a network. That's the book I'm writing on. So hopefully you will get some feedback from you too. My question to you is, when you came up with this idea, did you build a team first, or you think about getting the money first? Which was more important to you in launching the idea, the team or the money, or just maybe a business plan?
Yeah, for us it was 150% the team. I don't know if that's the right answer. Maybe one is supposed to write a business plan or raise some money, but we just didn't. What we did was got really excited and get other people excited and bring them together and start working together, to come up with what it was that we actually wanted to see in the world. So that's what we did. We started sharing the idea before it was even an idea. We started, and started getting people excited and involved.
My advice would be team would be first. So
Yeah. Glad to hear that.
Any other question? There's one last question.
Hi Ganesh, I'm Bhargav from the batch of IIM 2001. My question is more about the execution part of this. The dream director goes out and obviously talks to students,
Yeah.
figures out what they want to do. How do you take that from a lot of what your foundation will do is, the hope is generated from seeing some of those dreams being realized.
Yep.
How do you handle that execution, and how do you handle, in cases where you can't go ahead and execute some of those dreams?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the way our model works, when we go out and we find these dream directors, we bring them together and we train them at what is called Dream Academy. And then, they get dispatched to schools, and they're usually serving in communities that they're from. So we try not, we find it really powerful when a dream director can identify with students in a whole lot of different ways and understand where they come from. So